Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are playing 100, yes 100 whole days of Coral Island. I did abandon this game after a little while. I played one save before, but I didn't get anywhere near winter, so I decided to give it a real go this time and give it a full 100 days because there is an update on the way soon and I'm very excited for that. So I really wanted to get back into the game. So let's see what happened. So day one started with the obligatory introductions. Obviously we were introduced to Connor, who is the mayor, and he very kindly escorted us to our farm. And that is where we met Joko and Dinda. They are the island carpenters and they kindly did some work on this shack that I will be living in, that I will be calling home. And this is where we first saw how big the farm is that I will be working on and also how messy it is. That was alarming to say the least. And then once the introductions were done, we were left to our own devices. The first thing that I did was check my mailbox as I saw the notification, and there I saw a little letter from the carpenters, which was a nice welcome, and this seemed to unlock the first quest, which was called Home Sweet Home. Once I had done that, I began work clearing out some of my farm using the tools that I was gifted, and once I had enough space, I started to till an area to plant my turnips. Whilst tilling, I found a coffer, which is very intriguing. We'll have to figure out what to do with that. And then I planted my turnips and gave them a little drink so that they grow nicely. I then proceeded to spend the rest of my energy by clearing out more resources and working towards completing that quest. On day 2, I began by crafting a much needed chest. Then I gave my plants a water and decided to go out exploring and find some scavengeable items to make some money. Along the way, I also met some of the residents and headed to the blacksmith to process that coffer. After all of that socializing and foraging, I headed back to the farm and decided to clear up some of that mess. Whilst doing this, I unlocked the second part of the Home Sweet Home quest, which required me to visit the carpenter. So I did that, and then that told me that I needed a lot more resources, so there would be a lot more cleaning needed. From all my socializing, I also managed to complete the Making Friends quest line as well, so that's good. I went to bed on day 2 and I leveled up foraging to level 1. This means that I can now craft the candy tree seed, which will be a great help. Day 3 was our very first rainy day, which was a relief, so I didn't have to waste my energy watering those turnips. Instead, I spent the morning foraging for scavengeable items until the beach shack opened, and cue scene where I managed to get hold of the fishing rod and the bug net. I, of course, couldn't wait to put the fishing rod to the test. That is sarcasm, by the way. I am not a fisher person. I do not enjoy it generally, but I did manage to catch my first fish, which was a crayfish, so bonus points to me. Day 4 started off pretty normal, but little did I know. I scavenged, cleared some trash, and then I headed into town and there was a huge commotion, and I found Karen. Karen was there being her usual Karen self. She was trying to persuade the residents that Pufferfish was here to save their island with their dirty oil money, but the residents were not impressed, thankfully. After all the drama at Pufferfish headquarters, I headed to the museum in search of tranquility, and this is where I was greeted by a sad-looking Scott. Scott revealed that the museum's precious collection was sold to clean up an oil spill, and somehow I got roped into helping him rebuild the museum. I managed to make my first couple of donations today because I thought, why not get the ball rolling? And thanks to the money I had made from selling forageable items, I was also able to visit the general store for the first time. And this is where I purchased the backpack expansion and some more seeds. I, of course, wasted no time in getting these planted. The next morning we had a visit from Mark. Mark is clearly not a morning person, and I think he obviously hadn't had his morning coffee, which is why he was a little bit sassy, but he did have an important message. He was here to tell us that the mines had been unlocked. Now, any normal person would have rushed off to the mines. Did I do that? No. I have no idea why I didn't do that, but instead we collected our turnips, which was our first harvestable crop, yay, and then we spent the day collecting trash from trash cans and bug catching. But there was one good thing to come out of this day, and that was the fact that we got to 7 donations in the museum, which was pretty good. And actually there was a second good thing. When I went to bed that night, there were a few levels gained, and this was level 1 farming, level 2 foraging, and level 1 bug catching, which gave us some new recipes to craft and also some more max energy and some skill points too. Day 6 was a day of cleaning, and not just around the farm. I also decided to clean up a bit around the recycling centre. Connor also gave me a bit more of an insight into the town's history and shared about the town ranking system. Hopefully F stands for fabulous. I had some form of strange dream when I headed to bed this night. Some more exploration was definitely required to figure out what all of this meant. That next morning, I was eager to find out more, and so I headed to the mysterious tree at the bottom of my farm. This interaction seemed to startle some strange tree-like creature. Following that odd encounter, I headed to the museum to make some donations, and Scott was there waiting for me. This is where he revealed his dreams for the museum and showed me his plans for a Kickstarter campaign. Next, I headed to the carpenters to get started on repairing my home, and now I have somewhere to watch my reality TV shows on. On day 8, I woke up to 2 letters, one from Ling to advise they need applicants for divers, and the second from Chieftain requesting that I meet him, so off I went to meet the mysterious person. After a little bit of magic, this mere human was granted or grew a third eye? I'm not sure how to describe it. Either way, I can now understand the language of old, which will come in handy at the Lake Temple, I'm sure. With my new power in tow, I made a quick pit stop at the general store to sell some produce and buy some new seeds, and I made good use of the rainy day by getting them planted straight away. The following morning, I headed straight to the diving dock to meet Ling, who explained the basics of diving. I wasted no time in healing coral sites and managed to heal a total of 4 in a single trip, which I thought was pretty good. On day 10, Saya dropped by to explain the benefits of kelp, and then I headed off to Cherry Blossom Festival as today was festival day. I spoke with some of the other residents and took part in the sack race, which was fun, but I did fall a few times. I don't think the festival is fully complete yet, but I cannot wait to see what it's like when it is, because it is so pretty. On day 11, I decided it was finally time to do some mining. I managed to get a good amount of bronze and hit level 5. With the bronze, I made my first bee house and started making some sweet, sweet honey. The next morning, we had a visit from Pablo, who gave me a blueprint for a furnace recipe and also told me how to make bars. I also had a bountiful harvest today, so I headed to Sam's and purchased the backpack upgrade and some new seeds. As day 13 is unlucky for some, I decided to spend the day diving and found my first fossil node, so maybe it's not unlucky after all. On day 14, I decided to start expanding my resource equipment so I can put that trash to good use. I also managed to make my first bronze kelp essence. As I didn't manage to heal the 5th coral site required for the quest, the day before I decided to head back to the diving spot and complete this quest. Once I had done this, I headed off to Ling, who gave me a little science lesson and then wanted me to heal 20 coral sites. After speaking with Ling, I decided it was time to give my wardrobe a little refresh, so I headed to the White Flamingo clothing store. There were so many good options, but I of course decided to go for this cute daisy tee. On day 15, I decided that I hadn't given the mines enough love yet, so I headed back down there and managed to get to level 10, which was a pretty good accomplishment. I also headed off to the blacksmith to process some of the coffers that I'd managed to get from diving. The next day, I made my way to the Lake Temple to see what Chieftain was talking about, and here I unlocked the first altar and gave a daisy towards the spring season bundle. The rest of the day was spent doing general bits and bobs, including working on my farm and getting more crops ready to harvest, and also doing a little bit of diving as I really want to get those sprinklers crafted. Not a lot happened on day 17. I spent the day working on my farm and also clearing it up a bit. I then went off and met some more residents. The next day, I headed to the mines, eager to get to level 15. However, I wasn't prepared for the amount of energy that this would take, and my food soon ran out, so I unfortunately left at level 12. The next morning, I headed to the Lake Temple to work on the first altar. I managed to unlock the resource bundle and also the spring season bundle, which gave me the ability to fast travel, thanks to this peculiar looking drink from a stranger. Don't do that in real life, but I was very grateful to now be able to fast travel around the map. With my new ability, I headed straight to Sam's store and I purchased some new seeds which had unlocked. I bought some cucumbers, soybeans, poppies, and my first fruit tree. Day 20 was a pretty uneventful day. I just cleared out some more space on my farm to make room for more crops and did a little bit of socializing in the town. As I still hadn't managed to get to level 15 in the caverns, I decided to give it another go on day 21. However, this was a total fail, and despite having snacks with me, I had to leave at level 14. Although the mines were a total fail, I managed to head to the museum and donate another bug, which brought us to 25 donations in total, halfway to the goal. On day 22, I decided to head to the blacksmith to finally upgrade my pickaxe so that I could get rid of those annoying larger rocks on my farm. With my pickaxe now out of action, I decided to head to the diving spot and spend my day there. The next day, I remembered to go and collect my new shiny pickaxe from the blacksmith, and the first thing I did was head back to my farm to remove that awful rock that was in the way of my crops. When I said earlier that I didn't like fishing, I meant it. It wasn't until day 24 where I finally decided to give fishing a go, and this is where I managed to pull up a lot of trash and flyers. However, I did catch some fish. I took the fish and some bugs that I caught along the way to the museum, and we managed to get to 36 donations. Progress was coming slowly. I was so grateful for a rainy day on the 25th. This meant I could save some energy from tending to my crops. So I used it wisely and headed to the cavern. Maybe today would be the day that I hit level 15. Thankfully it was, and I celebrated by mining some more bronze ore. With the help of some snacks, I actually made it to level 20, which was great, and the mines weren't so bad after all. The next day, I processed some geodes and made some donations to the museum, which meant I only had 8 more things to give to hit that quest. The rest of the day was spent diving, and here is where I learned that I would need a bronze quality cucumber to progress to the next level. Day 27 was the penultimate day before summer arrived, and I prayed that out of these harvestable crops that there would be a bronze quality cucumber, and there was. Thankfully! I headed straight back to the diving spot and fed the turtle and then continued on with some more diving progress. I managed to hit 11 coral sites healed, and then this is where I discovered that I needed to start raising some cows and chickens as this turtle wanted some bronze quality milk. On the final day of spring, I finally had enough bronze kelp essence to upgrade my seeds at the lab. I was also a little bit reckless and purchased some silver kelp and some bronze kelp so that I could get some sprinklers. Oops. And the rest of the day was spent clearing out my farm, making more space as I wanted to totally renovate my crop area for summer. And just like that, summer was here, so I began by planning out my new crop fields ready for those new summer crops, and I also used my new sprinklers so that this would make my life so much easier. I headed to Sam to see what goods he had to offer and purchased some red peppers, corn, starfruit, blueberries, and some spicy hot peppers. The next day was a rainy day. I thought summer was supposed to have nice weather, but I was not complaining as this gave me a chance to work on my farm some more. The rest of the day was spent in the cavern, and the monsters were out in full force this day. I managed to get to 25 and then tried to progress to level 30, however I gave up at level 27 as I ran out of energy. I'm not sure what happened to my footage for day 3 of summer, so we're just going to skip ahead to 4. I'm sure nothing interesting happened. So on day 4, I spent the day fishing so that I could get 2 more donations needed for the museum. And just like that, I had made enough donations to get the Kickstarter campaign rolling. Day 33 was pretty uneventful. I spent the day socializing, foraging, catching some bugs, and then I decided to clear out some more space for crops on my farm. After having unlocked the Kickstarter campaign, I headed to the museum on the morning of day 34, and there was a little bit confusion as to whether this was a Kickstarter or a Kickstarter. But either way, the launch was successful, and hopefully in a few days we'll have some more money and an expanded museum. The rest of the day was spent clearing out the farm. This really does feel like a never-ending task. By some miracle, I received a letter the next day from Scott to say that the Kickstarter campaign had already been funded, but we would have to sit tight while he looked at some stretch goals. I then headed to the mines to try and get some more ores that I would need for the farm buildings. Whilst there, I hit level 30 and received some yummy jamu. Day 36 started out with some rainy day fishing, however it didn't go very well. Feeling deflated from my bad fishing trip, I headed back to the farm to make some progress on clearing it out some more. When I headed to bed that night, I had a few levels up, including level 5 foraging, which unlocks some cool wooden chests and the wooden arch, and also level 2 fishing. Wow, I never thought I'd get there. I haven't spoken about them so far, but here's a little update on how my levels are going and the skill points. Day 37 was also the day that I finally managed to get a chicken coop, so I cleared out a space and popped it down, ready for its new chicklings. Day 38 was the day that I finally had the crops ready to complete the summer season bundle, so I headed off to the lake temple and made my donations. I also headed to the mines and so nearly got to level 40, however, just like in Cinderella, the clock hit midnight and it was time to get out of there. On day 39, I headed to the diving spot and met a turtle who wants some corn, which I get is juicy and it has the knobs. I managed to heal a further 2 coral sites, bringing us to a total of 17 before I decided to head back. The next day was a good day for crops. I managed to harvest quite a few, including that corn that was needed for that turtle. Due to all of my diving activities, I managed to have enough bronze kelp essence to upgrade the plant quality in the lab. And then I put my snorkeling mask back on and headed back down to the diving spot to feed the turtle. The next day I decided to do a little bit of window shopping and saw what Ben had to offer, but nothing quite took my fancy. So I headed off back into the mines to try and get to level 40, and I did it. We finally completed the earth mine, which is great, and next we can get some silver ore, yes. After hitting level 40, some kind of weird earthquake happened and this unlocked the next shaft. I headed down and spent a little bit of time here just to check it out, but my energy was getting low. On day 42, I finally decided it was time to have some fluffy friends, so I went and purchased some chickens, baby chickens, and 1 adult chicken. I of course gave them some very, very original names. And despite the poor name choices, they seem to be settling in well. I also decided it was time to buy my first silo so that I had somewhere to store the chicken food. The next day, I decided it was time for some major farm renovations, so I placed down lots of stone path, added a wooden arch and some fencing. It didn't look the best, but at least it was something. I also decided it was time to expand my artisan crafting, so I set up a little honey factory. I also decided it was time to get a barn, so I set off to the carpenter and purchased the kit required. The next morning, I woke up to mail from Grandma. I don't know who Ashley is, but congratulations on the bun in the oven. I then headed back to the mines to try and get some more ore that were needed for the artisan machines. Day 45 was another mining day, and this time I put my attention to the water cavern and managed to hit level 20 in one go. The following day I made some more donations to the museum and we're now at 71 donations, which is pretty good. I also spent the day expanding my crop areas, adding in some additional crop plots. On day 47 my new cow moved in, so I set about befriending them. I also headed to Sam's to buy some new seeds ready for those new crop plots. As I may have gone a bit overboard with the seeds that I had purchased and worried that summer was going to run away fast, I added even more fields. The next morning, Scott arrived at my door bright and early to escort me to the museum because it was the grand opening day of the Founders Hall. Upon arrival at the museum, everyone had gathered and it was looking pretty snazzy. Did I just say snazzy? Yes, I did. Scott also gifted me the soft bristle brush, so now I have the ability to recover fossils and torn pages. On day 49, I decided it was time to get a friend for my cow, and feeling very unoriginal, I just left the name as it was. The next day was another day spent in the mines, but this time I had some help from my trusty friend, the explosives. I managed to make good progress in the water shaft and managed to get down to level 30. After watering my crops and tending to my animals, on day 51 I headed back down into the mines, but this time to the earth shaft to get some more bronze. When I headed to bed this night, I also managed to unlock the mayonnaise machine, which means that I can finally turn those eggs into some yummy mayonnaise for my fries. Day 52 in the Big Brother, on Coral Island. I didn't do much this day, I just mainly spoke to residents and mulled around town, nothing of note. The next day was a rainy day, thankfully, and I made some mayonnaise machines and put them to work. I spent the remainder of the day in the diving spot collecting more kelp. Day 54 was another day spent running around town, however I did decide to go to the dock and do some nighttime fishing and to try and get those fishing points up. I did also make some good money this day. I was pretty impressed with nearly hitting 3k. It looks like my farm is starting to pay off. The next day, it was the penultimate day of summer, and that meant that it was festival day. But by the time I attended to my animals and sorted out my crops, I totally forgot. And instead of going to the festival, I went diving instead. So we'll have to wait for next year. The final day of summer was a rainy one, so I headed into the mines to combat some of those monsters and also get some more resources. When I awoke the next morning, there was a lovely golden tone to the farm, which means one thing, that fall has arrived. It was time to get to work, removing those old crops and head off to Sam's to purchase some fall seeds. The selection of seasonal seeds that Sam had in store were really nice, including some of your favourites, pumpkins and grapes. On day 58, now that I have access to grapes, I decided it was time to get some kegs going and start making some serious money. Today I also did some more exploring around the map and realised I had never been to this sacred tree. How I had not been here before I do not know, but I also managed to get some candied tree seed from doing that, which I will never say no to. Day 59 was another day spent diving, which wasn't very eventful as I can't really progress until I get that large bronze milk. The next morning I awoke and my house was bigger and now I had a cool little kitchen. On this day I spent most of my energy chopping down trees. Don't worry, I did replant them. I also went and did some shopping at the furniture shop today to buy some outdoor kind of flowers and things, and they are all so pretty. I just wanted them all, but I didn't have that much money, so I really need to grind to be able to buy all of this pretty stuff. On day 61, my cow finally delivered a bronze large milk, and you know what that means, we gotta go diving. I fed him the milk and got cracking on the new area that I had just unlocked. After clearing the 20 required coral sites, I did bump into some mer people. They didn't really say much, but they were just in awe of the magic skills that I had. On day 62, after completing my farm chores, I headed to the blacksmith and decided to treat myself to a brand new shiny pickaxe. I also stopped by the lake temple to make some donations towards the fall bundle, and after socialising, I finished the day off with some night fishing by the cavern. The next morning I started off early and headed into town and met some of the locals and gave them some blueberries as a little sweetener. The rest of the day was spent diving, and this is where I realised that I'd unlocked the silver kelp areas, so I'm going to be spending a lot more time down here to hoard every bit of silver kelp that I can. My time spent diving paid off as I was able to make 2 donations towards the ocean scavengeable bundle. On day 64, I did a quick check of my town ranking to see how well I was progressing, and we managed to get to D, so not too shabby. I was also able to make the penultimate donation towards the full bundle, so just the bronze quality rice remaining. I then treated myself to a brand new improved fishing rod from the beach shack. Hopefully this will make fishing a bit easier. The next day I managed to grow the bronze rice that was required for the lake temple, so I headed off and made the donation and got a little reward for doing so. I then decided to spend the rest of the day diving and got myself a little bit stuck. I don't know if anyone else has done this, but this was a bit of a boo-boo and I really thought that I had broken the game, but thankfully it fixed itself. Whilst diving, I found this underwater starlit town area and I'm really intrigued to see what this will turn into. We'll have to wait for further updates. Day 66 was another rainy day. My crops will be loving this. You'll never guess what I did for the rest of today. Yes, that's right, more diving. The next morning, I spent most of my time sorting through my artisan crafting machines. This seems to be making me some serious money, so I'm definitely gonna have to work on some expansion soon. I also headed to the ranch in order to buy some more cows because I really want to focus on getting my ranching level up as well. I also decided it was time to go for a little shopping spree in Socket and Pan. However, looking at the price of things, I didn't go too crazy and just bought one thing for now. Hopefully we can start doing some cooking. I decided to make the rest of the day a fishing day, and boy did this goldfish put up a fight. The following day, I must have been feeling unwell because I spent most of the day fishing, which is very out of character for me. On day 69, my grapes were finally ready, so that means one thing. We can start fermenting, brewing, I don't know the correct term, but making some wine basically, so that means money. Ka-ching! I then decided I had been neglecting the mines a little bit, so I headed down there, decided to do some fighting and get some bronze ore. On day 70, I came across this random meteorite in my field. I harvested it and got some much needed silver ore. I will never say no to silver ore. I had quite a lot of energy left this evening, so I decided to head down to the diving spot and pick up some more silver kelp. When I went to bed this night, I also unlocked level 4 ranching, which means that I can finally turn all of that milk that I've been hoarding into yogurt. Yum. I wasted absolutely no time by making the yogurt machines and getting them going so that we can have some fresh, yummy, creamy yogurt tomorrow. Or the next day, or whenever it's ready. I then decided it was time to make my farm a little bit more accessible, so I did some decorating, and by decorating, I mean placing down fence and this stone path. There was a lot of it. Day 72 started by receiving this letter. Apparently I've had a name change that I wasn't aware of. This day I decided to go and do some deforestation around the island. Maybe I'm the problem and not pufferfish? Day 73 was another day spent diving, and I don't know if it's just me, but as I progress healing the coral sites, the pathways just get longer and longer, so it's even more work. But I did manage to heal quite a few, unlock an area where I couldn't access, which is weird, but nonetheless we kept going. The next morning, I processed some fossils and some geodes that I had got from diving, and I also made my 115th donation to the museum. I really want that furniture set, it looks so cute. I did some fishing for the rest of the day and was quite proud of myself for catching my first sockeye salmon. The next day, I put my snorkeling mask on yet again and headed down into the diving spot. I didn't make much progress, I just kind of ran around and collected lots of silver kelp. The next day, I decided that I needed a break from diving, so instead I went mining. As the sun was setting, I decided to head into Fish and Sips and give out some much needed treats to the other locals. On day 77, I literally spent all day diving from dawn until dusk. As I was so eager to continue with my progress in the diving area, I headed back there the next day and spent some good time there cleaning up and working on some more coral sites. On day 79, I took a break from diving eventually and went and did some fishing. I went to every different fishing spot that I could to try and get different variants of fish so that I could donate to the museum and get that gorgeous furniture pack. I was also on my way back to the farm when I noticed that there was some different coconuts on the trees, so I went about and gathered a few of them. On day 80, there were so many crops ready to harvest, so this took some time, but I was just thinking about the money. I then was getting diving withdrawal symptoms, so I headed back down and there was loads of garbage to clear up, so I kept going with it. I also did make enough donations to get the furniture from the museum, and I was a little bit underwhelmed, but it's still cute. So I did a little bit of decorating and added it in. The house is definitely looking very bare, so maybe at some point I do need to buy some furniture. On day 81, I was feeling a little bit stressed, so I headed to the spa and did a little bit of run around in the refreshing waters. From all my time spent diving, I also had enough silver kelp essence to be able to upgrade my seed quality. Day 82 was mainly spent in the mines, collecting more resources. By this point, I had quite a lot of money burning a hole in my pocket, so the next day I decided to go to the furniture shop and splash out on some items to make my house feel a little less bare. I then spent the rest of the day cleaning the ocean floor. Day 84 was the final day of fall, and I was a little bit sad at the prospect of not having this gorgeous kind of autumnal feel to the island, but I harvested my crops and set about the day. There was also a town meeting today which I took part in. It looks like they needed help clearing out the cemetery with some moss. I don't know where the cemetery is, but I'm intrigued. The next morning, there was a nice blanket of snow covering the whole farm and island, so I set about removing my autumn crops to make way for whatever winter produce I could grow. Sam didn't have many seasonal crops, but that made my decision as to what seeds to buy a hell of a lot easier, and I just went crazy and bought loads. Because I didn't get all my planting done on the first day of winter, it carried over into the second day, so we might be a little bit behind in growing these crops. Honestly, this day just kind of flew by. I didn't really do anything productive. I did a little bit of fishing, a little bit of socializing, but nothing too major. On day 87, I decided to go to the lab and upgrade the hay to level 2. I wasn't really sure which way to go, but I decided my chickens and my cows need proper food. I then spent the day diving yet again. It honestly feels like a never-ending task cleaning this ocean. The next day, I decided that I wasn't quite happy with my farm, so I added even more kegs. So now I have a total of 9 kegs. I don't know if that's overkill or not. I also decided I didn't like my placement of my farm buildings, and instead, in their place, I had an idea of putting in like a resource kind of grinding crafting area, and so I started the painful process of moving my farm buildings. I then headed back into the mines to try and get some more ore that I would need for making more artisan machines. The next day, I continued my moving endeavors, moving around a silo to get it out of the way of where I want my crafting area to be. I wasn't sure how to spend the rest of my day, so you guessed it, I headed back into the diving spot. Day 90, and we've got 10 days left of this 100-day challenge, so if you've made it this far, congratulations. As you can see, I did spend the day mining. Not too exciting. On the next day, the end was finally in sight for moving all of those farm buildings around, as I moved the final one that I wanted to, and that was the barn. I was also able to start work on building the crafting area that I wanted, so I started by moving over some of the machines. When I went to bed this night, I had some sort of strange event, which turned out to be a blessing, and my crops were ready to harvest. Magic. In all honesty, day 92 was a pretty boring day. I didn't do a lot. I processed some geodes, I went fishing, and then finished the day off with some diving. Day 93, I woke up early, eager to work on my crafting area, and this took some time to get it right. And now I have all of the resources together and lots of storage. This is just much more convenient. The work on my resource area carried over onto the next day as I spent the arduous journey of moving all of my items from outside of my house, but at least it looked better. I then headed back over to the furniture shop and spent a small fortune on buying outdoor furniture. On day 95, I was finally able to harvest some snowdrops, so headed straight to the lake temple and completed the winter bundle. This meant that I had done the whole of Altar 1 and unlocked the greenhouse. That was so exciting and meant that I could have a constant all year round crop of grapes or whatever I wanted. I had to do some planning. I sold some wine this day and boy did it pay off. I think this had been the most money that I'd made in one day. 10,000 is just amazing. Lots more furniture coming soon. And then overnight, something magical happened. Not only did the greenhouse build, but this whole area seemed to unlock and something happened. So I'm definitely going to need to do some exploring over here today. So I found the area that had been unlocked. It's pretty cool around here. I found some candied tree seeds and also some ginseng. And then I'm guessing that this is the cemetery that the mayor was talking about earlier on. This area is just a nice little spot just to run around. I feel like there's somewhere that needs to be unlocked yet, but hopefully that will come in future updates. After exploring, I started to work on my greenhouse. Slightly annoying that the sprinklers don't quite fit properly, but hey, it is what it is. If I don't have to water it, that's a bonus. I really wanted to plant grapes in here, so I headed to the Concerned Monkey to buy them as they were out of season. Day 97, I continued work on my greenhouse, tilling the area, fertilizing and planting the seeds. The next morning, I spied on some of the residents enjoying the hot baths in their clothes. No judgments here at all. After crafting loads of sprinklers, it was time to replenish my kelp stocks, so I went diving. And then we have it, we're on day 99. I started by making a donation to the museum. That means that in total we've donated 132 items. And then here's a look at everything that I've achieved so far. So we got to rank C and everything got to level 5. I haven't really done very well with the friendships. I've got a few to level 3, but yeah, I need to work more on that for sure. Aside from having a look at my progress, I also did some fishing and caught a frogfish, which was pretty cool. And there we have it, one more sleep and it was day 100. This honestly took so long to do, and I was thinking, what can I do on day 100 that would be kind of fun? But I couldn't think of anything. So I just went and did my old-fashioned diving, which was kind of fitting seeing as how much I've done during this video. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm not going to do a farm tour because I'm not overly happy with the way that my farm looks, so I'm gonna try and save that for another video, maybe do some decorating and stuff and see what happens. But yeah, stay tuned. I know the update is coming, or it's out now, so I definitely need to get on that and see what changes have happened. So stay tuned for more Coral Island stuff. Have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.